Hey everybody, Micah here, and I am excited to talk with you for just a few minutes about the why behind your leadership. And I know that your specific team has a specific ministry purpose, and that's the what of what your team does, but that's not necessarily the why that you are a leader. And yes, to lead your team in the tasks and roles, that's important, but there's more to being a leader in the church. And there are a few common goals that we all have in leading others. And these common things, they are at the core of why we're all leaders. And they break down like this. Your leadership provides a place where people can get care. And that is spiritual care where they can be shepherded spiritually. And it provides a place also where your teams can make authentic connections with each other, as well as getting coaching and teaching in their specific roles, as well as spiritually. Now, this is our role as church leaders, just in a nutshell. And so today we're going to focus on this first one, and then we'll talk about the other two in upcoming sessions. So let's get started. The scripture that you just read in Hebrews, it says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but instead encouraging one another." Now, this verse, this highlights the importance of encouragement, community, and spiritual support on our spiritual journeys. And so today, I want to explore how our teams are not just functional groups within our church, but they're an actual biblical model for long-term discipleship and spiritual care. And in fact, we see that teams are how Jesus discipled people. Jesus' team had a perfect blend of teaching and community as well as practical hands-on ministry. He didn't just gather his disciple for teaching sessions. No, he also involved them in real-life ministry experiences just like your team. They witnessed his ministry, they listened to his teachings, and then he sent them out to actually practice the things that they had learned in practical ministry to people. And that's what you do with your teams. They watch you, they listen to you tell them how to do it, and then you let them do it. And also the Apostle Paul, he always traveled with a team of companions on his missionary journey, like Barnabas, Timothy, Silas, all kinds of other people as well that learned how to do ministry with him. And then he sent them out to do it themselves. This model of discipleship through practical involvement on teams, it's something that we see over and over in the New Testament. And that is because serving on teams, it actually creates an atmosphere for spiritual growth, spiritual care, or shepherding. And the word pastor in the Bible, it's actually translated shepherd, or a person who cares for the sheep. And so you might say, Micah, look, I'm not a pastor. And I'm not saying that you have to be a pastor. It's just about caring for your team, shepherding them, being there for them, because our staff pastors, they can't personally shepherd every individual in our church. And actually, they're not even supposed to, because the fivefold ministry, including that of pastors, is for the purpose of equipping his people to do the works of the service. So this includes like evangelists, equipping people to evangelize, teachers, equipping people to teach, and of course, pastors or shepherds, equipping people to shepherd. And that is you. So you have a pastor that oversees your area of ministry, and their job is to equip you, the coaches and the leaders, to shepherd and care for the people, or to pastor the people. In other words, to help people take their next steps spiritually. So, for instance, you're talking to one of your team and you find out they haven't been baptized. Well, you would just encourage them to take their next step of baptism. Take them to the website or the next steps table and get them signed up. Or maybe you find out that they're struggling with parenting their teenager, and you might find out if that student is going to 24/7. And if not, encourage them to take their next step and send their student. Or maybe help them find a parenting meetup by going to the meetups list. It's just paying attention to the sheep, your team, just like a shepherd would, and help them take their next step. Or maybe they share something that they're struggling with, and you pray with them, but then you follow up with them midweek. You see, this is the care aspect of leading a team. And so it looks like this. My role as a pastor and Melissa's role as a pastor is to pastor our staff pastors. And they in turn disciple and shepherd our coaches, who disciple and shepherd our team leaders, who then disciple and shepherd our team members. And all this dovetails right into the mission that God has given to us as a church. And that's the Great Commission, to make disciple makers. So, if the biblical example that we have to make disciples is to lead teams, that's a framework for making disciples. And that means that coaches are making disciple makers by developing team leaders, and team leaders are discipling their members. This is literally the mission strategy of our church. So, coaches, be attentive to the needs of your team leaders, and team leaders, be attentive to the needs of your team members. Pray for them. Listen to their concerns. Offer support and encouragement and spiritual next steps. And even rally the rest of the team around those that need support or care. Organize meals while they're having surgery or a death in the family, whatever it is. Just remember that our job as leaders, it's not just about getting tasks done or filling roles. What we're doing is the biblical model of discipleship and pastoral care. And by shepherding and caring for our teams, we're just looking for those opportunities to help them take their next spiritual steps and become who they were meant to be. So, Hebrews 10 encourages us, spur one another on toward love and good deeds, spending time together and encouraging one another. And as our teams follow this biblical model, we're not just leading teams, we're making disciples and making disciple makers, and therefore fulfilling the Great Commission and the mission of this church. So, at this time, your leader is going to lead you in a discussion, and so open up and think through how we can provide spiritual care and shepherding to our teams, even if we don't hold the title of pastor. All right, have fun.